Okay, so again, today is Thursday, June the 20th. We're in the payday class. We're going to do just a simple quiz. 3 ways to write the word aisle and 3 definitions. Okay, there's 2 ways to write the word capital. Write them both the way you think they're spelled and a brief definition. Okay, next one is write your outlines for conventional. I'll put them up here. It's conventional, unconventional, unconventional. If you could how would you write them?
Conventional.
Yeah. Let's do conventional, unconventional, and unconventional. Okay, conventional, unconventional, unconventional. Okay, the next one is, what are the margins and border requirements of the Uniform Format Manual? If you know, and don't stress out. We're gonna find all these answers. But what are the border requirements and the margin requirements according to the UFM when you're doing your work? And if you don't know, that's okay. Don't worry. Just you can take a guess.
Something like the border.
Yeah, if you know the border requirements, is it a border? Is it 2 sides? Is it, how long it's supposed to be? And you can just leave it blank if you have no idea. And the last one is, how would you transcribe the following? I think it was back in the 90s. I think it was back in the 90s. How would you write it? No, I'm sorry, in a sentence. If you were transcribing that as a sentence, how would you write it? I think it was back in the 90s. Okay? Everybody make sure your name's on it. You're going to be turning them in, but let's get our answers. Okay? See how you did. Aisle, A-I-S-L-E, the narrow path between 2 obstructions, like your aisle is right here. Aisle apostrophe L-L for I will, and isle, a small island. You need to make sure you have a way to write them and distinguish, because in the transcripts we saw different ones. So those are ones that you have to know it. You have to just figure out how you're going to write it. Very important, capital and capital. Okay, capital is usually the money. Is that what y'all got? And capital is a capital building. Okay. And then I just want to see how y'all did your conventional. We'll put some of those up later. I just want to see how y'all did it. Anybody know the margins for the uniform format manual? And the border requirements? Do you know what they are?
50. You're talking about the margins for.
The side margins. Not, yeah.
I
thought it was 1, 1.5, and 0.5.
That's what we want to find out for sure according to the UFM. So hang on to that question. How would you transcribe the following? How many of y'all thought it was, and this is what we'll discuss, because you know what, you start looking and you're going to have to do what's best. We saw this way. I don't know if you can see it there. It's apostrophe 90 and then the S. We saw 90 without the apostrophe. So, can you write it out, 90s? You know, it's going to be a choice, but we can look at some of the rules. Just wanted to see how you did on that. Go ahead and turn in your papers. Pass them to the front. You get some extra points for anything you might be missing. So, how many of you do not have a copy of the uniform format manual? You'd like one? Okay. We printed some out. And you know where to find it, right, guys? But remember we talked about you getting your notebooks? Remember we talked about you getting your notebooks together and the things that we're giving you on rules and things like that? You might want to put this in there. So those that need a copy, thank you, thank you. So anybody need a copy? So we want to find the answers to those borders. If you want to look online, it's online on the Texas Court Reporters, the Court Reporter Certification Board. So I want you to find, we still need to find those two answers. What are the margins and what are the borders? When you go to convention, you'll be able to ask. You can go online. See if y'all can find that answer. We'll come back and see if y'all have it. It's going to be under Uniform Format Manual. If you don't have a copy, you can look it up. I'm going to get the last printed right now. Anybody else want a copy?
So it just says you have to have it.
So the real nice thing about the Uniform Format Manual, it's got that index that you can just look up.
But really, isn't that something that our CAT system's going to do anyways?
Well, that's what you want to make sure it's doing it right, because what we're finding is some of them are off.
Yeah, like mine.
So when you go to convention, see right here, this is really cool. You've got your table of contents. Anything you need to know, you can find it here, your page number, and there it is on, what are we looking at? Format box, perhaps? So you go to page 9. And yeah, but when we're seeing all different kinds of things, okay? See, everybody has the same page size. Here are your margins. So you want to make sure the margins are between that, and then your format box consists of solid top, bottom, left, and right marginal. Okay? So, you're not going to do that, obviously, today, but that's something that you want to work with. You can always call it tips. But guys, when you have the convention coming in town and you got Keith coming in, you're going to be able to ask him anything. And he can help you. Or if you guys want to help each other, See, here's the format box they're talking about. See the margins here? Some of the margins that y'all are turning in are way over here. You're going to get an attorney calling you back and say, hey, you're charging me too much. Remember, it's all about, every line counts for attorneys. If you have a 1,000-page transcript and you're over here, can you imagine the amount? Okay, so that's something that you're going to work on your own. I think that will come in handy for you guys. Okay, let's go ahead and do our review of some of the Q&As that we had. I was going to text you late last night. Because I was thinking about you. So guys, yeah, y'all can open it out during a break or something. I know you've asked questions a lot on how to do that in order. It's going to be an easy fix. Heather? Yeah, when you do it on your tips, how to actually put the format in there. Once you know what the margins are supposed to be. Oh, you have somebody else's. Okay.
So is this the one from last week?
This would have been one from 2 weeks ago. A Q&A.
Maymester?
From Maymester? Or from?
Yeah, Maymester week 3.
This was the assignment that was on last Mondays. This was the assignment that was on last Mondays that y'all were supposed to do. And I think almost everybody got it down, but let's review it. Okay. And Q&As are going to go by fast because there aren't a lot of issues with Q&As. And you know, we always have talked about commas. And we're not going to have all the answers for you, but at least we're going to give you some references because they're very difficult to figure out what your commas are going to be. You can add this to your packet. And I want to, you know how we work together each time we had a comma? So we're going to keep working together, but I want to show you something that you want to always remember to look up court reporting books, any type of court reporting books if you find. But this one says, this one here says, there's different all kinds of commas. They call them run-on commas. There's a bunch of names they call them in court reports. The last section on commas covers a variety of situations that one confronts, all of us who deal with, writing and punctuating the spoken word. This is what I just want you to pay attention to. A general guideline I have mentioned before is that if it causes the reader to hesitate and have to reread, then some punctuation is probably needed. So even though it may not follow those rules all the time, if it's going to make you hesitate and make it a little confusing, then that's when you want to think about putting it in a comment. Because every time I was teaching this, I said, I know there's another rule that just says only because if it's a fast glance, you're going to make it to where they can understand it. Okay, now let's look at this. Please state your name for the record. We got this. Yes, I do. Let's look at this one here. I'm going to have to lower it a little bit. My middle name is Pamela. I don't like it. Let's talk about this comma because we have to class do it differently. I don't like it, comma, so I don't like to give it. It's okay to have it, I don't like it, so I don't like to give it, for ease of reading. And then there's a rule about a comma in front of those small words. I don't know if it's in what I just gave you. Or if it's on one of your comma ones. That's on the numbers. But there's a rule on right before the small words, but, so, after. Okay, here, I think it is a nice name. Have you ever gone by any other name? Some of y'all, for some reason, missed the S at the end. So you want to be careful with your question and answer bank. If you're plugging in yes sir, no sir, and everything, make sure your answer bank doesn't keep something in there. Everything else was pretty basic. Let's talk about this. Could you please tell us what your maiden name was? And could you state your address for the record, please? What rule did we look at about the polite? How would you guys do it? And this is just up for discussion, because how would y'all do it? Would y'all have done it this way? Would you have put question marks? What would you have done? So a polite request, it's okay to have periods. Y'all see that?
We talked about one time that it said that if it used the word could, then we use the question mark, but if they just said please state your name, then you don't. I mean, I don't know, did we say that?
I think the rule is if it's a polite request, even if there's a could, I don't remember actually a could being in there, but
So,
if it's a polite request,
and something that they absolutely should do, is that kind of
Yeah.
what the rule is?
yeah, so and you know what, this is for your thought process. What are you going to do? And you're not going to have someone looking over your shoulder on everything you do, but you can ask for help and go with what if they suggest, especially if you have a boss.
I don't really get that, because that's an interrogative sentence. When you say could you, would you, should you, and it's like you have to think now every time you write a question whether you should put a question mark or.
As a court reporter, you do. As a court reporter, you do. All I'm telling you guys, you can buy into this. All I'm saying is, all we want you to do is, there's court reporting rules and there's English rules. A lot of them jive. Some of them are crazy, like that semicolon. You won't find the semicolon in the regular English. And there's a semicolon before. Is that correct? Is that right? But the rules for the court, and again, these are on court reporting books. If you want to start Googling and find your own references, especially if you're getting ready to do a lot of transcribing, which we're doing already. This is a proofreading manual, a guide for court reporters. The other one, and these are books that have been around. We found some, and you can find all. Again, look how old this picture is. I mean, things are updated, but it's a lot of the same rules. But let's look at this one right here. The following rules, fees, and periods are an adequate guideline. We know that. Declarative sentence. Use a period at the end of an indirect question. Okay. Indirect question. She asked me when I would have the contract ready versus she asked me when's the contract going to be ready. This is what you want to look at, guys. Use a period at the end of a polite request. Would you please identify the exhibit? How many times have you seen that in your transcripts? You have. Please identify the exhibit. And remember your question bank defaults to a question mark when you hit the answer bank. So to answer your question, Jeff, yeah, you want to look at the woods. Same thing, could you please identify the exhibit? Can you tell us what happened next? Okay? And this is a word, all that came in just since we're here. This is where that abbreviation came in with the AM, but you know how now the proper way, the more consistent way is just 9, large A, large M, but is that the way court reporters do it? It's a question you can ask at convention. I see this in the business world, it's just 9 AM, but court reporters, it's this way and it's small. Okay, so with that in mind, what do you guys think you would do here? Right? Could you please tell us what your maiden name was? Period. Could you state your address for the record? Same thing as would you state your name for the record. And keep in mind, whatever we work with, everything is not correct. That's why we're trying to go line by line on these. This one, I think only one student out of maybe 25 did this one, but see how they have a comma? I live at 889 Highway 42 in Jackson, Mississippi. Seems like it could go without, remember that rule we just read for ease of reading, perhaps? So it's going to be your choice.
That's really should be optional. If the
Yeah.
word in wasn't there, definitely a comma would go.
Exactly.
Once in is there, I live on such and such a street in San Antonio, you're not going to put a comma before in.
Yes.
So that's the same principle, so that really even shouldn't be.
Yeah, see, I agree that it shouldn't, because the majority of y'all didn't put one in, so the thinking was right, but because it's there, it peaks up, and why did they do that? Again, this is the one where they didn't have the 30 years correct, so you know on numbers, I think the one we just turned out was on numbers. We've given you some on numbers. Let's look at that. Ages. Write general expressions of age in word or figure format. Use figures when age is in 3 words or more, or is used in a legal technical sense, or is expressed in terms of years, months, and days. I am 38. See, this is an option. But this would be your first choice. Because in the normal rules, when you start Googling and looking up how do I do ages, didn't we find, Nora, you remember you hadn't even that out to us? When you start Googling, you're not going to have to Google everything, but you got to start getting a sense of consistency. And the majority right now is to just write out numbers for your age. Okay, the building's 150 years old. The legal driving is 16. See here, remember in our must from a couple of weeks ago, it was the baby was 3 years old, and everybody wrote 3 years old because the rule was 9 and under, and in court reporting I found 10 and under. So you'll find 10 and under, you might find 9 and under that's written out. So this is just a reminder that your numbers are to be written out. In figures. Here's one that we just worked on. I live in, there's no commas there. Obviously, there's not another city there, but just something for you to think about. Let's see how the next page did. We owned it. We eventually had to sell it. Comma. Here's a comma on her transcript, or his. Everybody was divided. The whole class was divided. But we are still living there. It's, what's our rule? With but, you have conjunction in there, your but. So that's why that's in there. Okay. I am currently living there. The people behind me didn't have any front property. You need the comment here for sure because it's 2 separate thoughts right here. The people behind me didn't have any front property. And they wanted mine so bad that we went to an attorney. See the 2 different thought processes? It's divided by the answer. You want to put the comma. I think some might have not done anything and split up this sentence somehow. Let's talk about this one here. Yes, I have, but it has been a long time ago. Could you put a semicolon there, perhaps, or any thoughts on that?
No, you could period, you could semicolon.
Right? You just want to be consistent. But you want to find your rules that are going to follow you. On I think we've given you 11 yet, but which one did you just get? 13?
Well, we got it.
You got 11 last week? Maybe last week you got 11? Here you go. You promised to pay me semicolon, you didn't. It's also, so you can use a comma or a semicolon in there. Okay. This is where there's a court reporter and a lawyer here, comma, and you're being asked questions. And a lot of y'all, when I'm grading your papers, I'm either, because as I start correcting them and I see consistent errors, then I move things around and you'll see maybe just something underlined. It's just to bring your attention because we're going to talk about it in class. This for sure is going to be an error. Okay, period. I understand. Watch your IMs. What we're finding is because you have, if you're used,
Why is there a period after okay and not a comma? I think she's saying there's a comma.
no, there's a period.
There's a period?
She put a, because it's two thought process. This is where the court reporter and lawyer here, and you were being asked questions. Okay, because he didn't ask, or the attorney didn't say, do you understand? Okay, I understand. He's making a statement. And she said, okay, by the way, I understand. Okay? Your mind's just going to be thinking, I'm telling you girls and guys, you're going to be a court reporter forever and you're still going to wonder about commas, but you just be consistent. And just know, you know what, I have a little place to find out where my rule is. And not really a big deal unless it doesn't make sense when someone's reading it. Okay? So what I was going to mention here, I'm sure, just watch, if you're doing plugs where you have, what do you call them when you have your Q&As and you have extensions? Just make sure you don't have this Googled as I am versus I'm. That would be an error on the CSR. Here was another one that we had a little bit of inconsistency. The first one is that both of us cannot talk at the same time. Some put a period, some did nothing. But, and guys, there's a rule in there that we covered that's the comma before the and, the so, the but. And then this one, and it might have been because of the way the dictation, you know, when we're reading it, we try to inflect the periods. But let's look at this one here. Okay, it's a long question, and the majority of questions will be long. That's just the attorneys talking. The first one is that both of us cannot talk at the same time. Comma, can you do period, can you do a semicolon? It would make sense. So I will do my best to let you finish your answer before asking another question. Period. And, comma, by the same token. Or, some of y'all did and by the same token, comma. Might have depended on how it was dictated. But you'll see the rules that say that you can surround the, what is it, guys?
What's the question?
What is your phrase called that you have in here? Not necessarily prepositional, but that is a preposition.
It's
Independent clause.
a dependent.
No, it's another term. When you have a phrase that you don't necessarily need,
Extra.
Like
Extra, it's just extra.
okay, we'll find it.
Unessential information. Non-essential.
There's a term for it. It's in one of our papers.
Independent clause, isn't it?
But there's another term I'm looking for. Yeah, there's another term I'm looking for. We'll find it. So just keep that in mind. And by the same, remember when we did last week? You, as jurors, was it parenthetical? You as jurors. What did we talk about? We talked about it last week. A positive. We said you. It's something that's representing.
But by the same token.
It's not in a positive.
No.
No, it's not a positive.
It's a positive.
But there's a rule that says that little
Take it out. Non-essential.
non-essential.
A positive, a noun or noun phrase that renames a noun or pronoun immediately before it. And a positive is set off with a comma or commas when the renaming is unnecessary.
So we, the jury, you as jury. So that's what the appositive was. So there's another term for this one. So we'll find it. Non-essential. The non-essential clause. And
It's a phrase, that's all.
It's a parenthetical,
By
maybe.
is a preposition, so that's a phrase, not a clause.
And by the same token, it goes together. You can't put, you can put another question and take out by the same token. She's saying you can take out and by the same token.
you can take out by the same token. And you need to let me
Parenthetical
finish asking it.
expression is what it's called. A parenthetical expression.
Parenthetical expression. Thank you.
And by the same.
And it means that you don't need it.
Right.
Aren't there words that are attached to it? Maybe.
I beg your pardon?
Aren't there words that are attached to it, like they begin with a certain thing?
It says a word or phrase or clause that interrupts the flow of a sentence and is not necessary to complete an idea.
Perfect.
A parenthetical expression is set off with a comma or commas.
Good. Okay, guys, so just that you know it's a parenthetical expression. Something just to make you think more than you have to. You guys, you know, you're getting this stuff down now. Remember we talked about 5% is getting it down, 95% is writing it up. Let's see what the next page was. Here's another one. Also, now if they dictated it this way, also make sure that you make your responses verbal. Or if they dictate it, also make sure that you make your responses verbal. Do you see what you would do when you're writing? That's okay. I mean, we saw it both ways throughout. I think it would depend more. There's a rule on it that you have to have the comma, but it's more like how it was said. You got to remember, I think a couple of y'all might have had the question mark there because by default you get the question marks. You got to look at those. All right, everyone knows all right is always 2 words. And here again you have your period. Same thing as okay, all right, period. I will do my best, sir. I think the majority did all right, comma, I will do my best. Here again, another and. Also, and. This comma, tell me you don't understand, comma, and I will do my best to put it in a way that you can understand. All right, I agree with you. Another one. I think we had a lot of commas. Could you put some up? Yes.
For the questions, there's a comma after that first and.
She has one here. Let's look at that rule. If it's kind of like the also make sure you make your responses, and if you don't understand, and you'll see rules that a basic English rule that and, but, therefore they have commas. But in ease of reading, if you don't need it, if it's not necessary, and you will see it without. Okay? All right. Did you do a semicolon there? Same thing up here? All right. You know, you could do semicolons, but don't be semicolon happy. Just the period's so easier for the reader. The reader's going to say, all right. I agree with you. How about this? What would you do here? What about that polite? Would it hit the rule?
Yeah.
Right? I think it would. Can you tell us what this was about? Can you tell us what Exhibit 5 is? See the same thing there? So period would be okay. Carl's, make sure if you do get word keys that it's C-A-R-L, not K-A-R-L. Make sure you have the apostrophe in there. And here we are with the 90s, okay? Did we make a determination how we would do it? I know, Grant, you put the 90, there's your name, Grant, right there. You know, once I start grading them, guys, it's like I grade one, and then I grade another, and then I have to go back and forth, because I'm saying, the minds on everybody, it's just awesome, because y'all are all thinking very wise. So, when I have to ask you a question, I say, but Grant, you did this. You did the apostrophe 90 and the S, and that little rule we were showing, once you start Googling, how would you do 90s? That could be it. This is okay. 90s, we talked about that 2 weeks ago. 90s with no apostrophe. You would not do the apostrophe. What about if it was a 90s type of party? It was a 90s party. Let's just say it was a 90s party. 90s, N-O-S apostrophe. Because it's possessive. Right? It's a possessive party. It's a 90s party. If it was a 90s party. We already agree that we're not putting the positive punctuation there. Apostrophe. So if it was a 90s party, it could be 90s apostrophe. Nothing to stress over, just for your mind to think, how am I going to do this? So you're working for that this story. We were seeing a little bit of this and that, and a little bit of inconsistency on this, that. Yes, that's correct. So if we have questions that say, is that correct? Is it okay to have, yes, that's correct? You know, it's a judgment call. It's okay, but again, for the ease of the reader. Did I go to trial? I don't think anybody had this. They had it here. Or, it's there again. It's or, and, but. Or did it settle?
So that comma is absolutely necessary?
There's nothing that's absolutely necessary. And,
It's under 10 words too.
yeah, there's nothing that's absolutely necessary. You just want to make sure that you have a rule to say, well, why? Because we can't tell you why. And there's so many rules, guys. I tell you, there's so many rules. That's a whole class in itself. And so we're giving you a few papers, but we seem to find the consistent one on or, and, but. So we'll find out why. Here it is again. No, as I said, introduction. It was my fault. Should there be a comma? It was my fault, so I couldn't sue anyone. It reads better without. Some had it, some didn't. No, I did not. I remember learning that when I had no, it was no semicolon. I did not, because it's like a double negative. Only on the no answers. Blew me away. I never figured out. All I knew was when I had a no, I put no semicolon. I did not. They explained it once and it made a lot of sense. And that's the way I would still do it today, but I can't put my finger on the rule. But it was no semicolon because of the double negative. What about this one? Can you tell us what happened when you fell in the store this time? What would you do? Kind of a catchy one, right? Would you keep it a question mark? What about if they said, I sure can? Question mark. And guys, we reviewed what the CSR would count off as errors. Punctuation would be an error for sure if it was supposed to be a period and you put a question mark. How many have we covered already that are a period? At least 4? If you were ready to pass your test and you had 4 periods, all I'm saying is double check your work on your questions to make sure it's a question mark or a period. Here's your famous IO. We were maybe a third of the class had it wrong on the spelling, but I just like to make sure that you have a way to define it, so when it comes out, you have it perfect. Are you here in court to recover damages from that slip and fall? Slip and fall, and you can do a simple Google, and you won't really find slip and fall, but there are cases called slip and fall cases. So if you had slip and fall case, what would you do? Hyphenate, slip and fall case. But by itself, you'll see attorneys do it all kinds of ways. Remember, you're going to get documents that attorneys, secretaries are doing. The secretary might be over 50, 25. There's a big change in what they learned. So the attorneys are going to have documents. The attorneys do them themselves too. So you're going to follow what the attorneys have if you have that document. Slip and fall is usually without the hyphens. Sometimes it has the ampersand. Everybody knows what an ampersand is? The dollar, like almost a dollar sign. Okay? Let me back up just a little bit. I'd like y'all to double check to make sure you have correct outlines for anyone and anybody, because that anyone and anybody isn't just the B in the end. So a couple of y'all have the error there. That's another point. And it could just be because of the way the finger is, so you want to make sure your globals are correct. And as we're going, some of y'all are not at this point because y'all did a shorter take, but still you'll get some feedback from here. Social Security, you always remember it's capped. See the answer here? Yes. Are you living on Social Security at this time? Yes, I am. They're directly answering that. Period. That is the only income I have. They didn't ask, is Social Security the only income you have at this time? Yes, comma, that's the only income that I have. That's the mindset. 2 separate answers. Here, see how they did it here? No, sir, semicolon, I don't. A question you can ask a convention. Does anybody know there? What is there a rule on no answers? Does it require a semicolon? It's got to be there somewhere. But they did it here. But they didn't do it here. See? And here, look at this one. So you didn't make a claim on your no, period. As I said. See all the inconsistencies here? You just got to take something and be consistent. But it'd be really nice to find out the rule on that. And I think, I don't know, you're going to have people agree or disagree, but as long as you're reporting, they call you back and you do a nice record, that's all that really matters.
So is there anything wrong with using a period on that short sentence? No, sir, period, I do not.
It would probably be no sir, comma, I do not, because he's answering the whole question. Do you have disability insurance? No, I don't. No, sir, I don't. No, sir, I do not. It's all the same answer. As opposed to, do you have disability?
Right, but you're saying it's a double negative that way, so you don't want to use a comma, so you're using a semicolon, and what if you just have no sir, period, I do not? I know it's just two
Makes
really
sense.
brief sentences,
Yeah.
but they are complete sentences.
That would make sense if you're consistent. That would work. Yes, sir.
Here's my take on it.
Okay?
When they answer the question, if it's a question and they answer no, then they're directly answering the question. And if they, in this case, say no, take out the sir, okay, imagine it's not there. Would you put a period, a semicolon? That's what you have to ask yourself. But more importantly, they're answering the question. Now, they didn't add any more facts, they're just answering the question. In the previous question, excuse me, are you living on Social Security at this time? He answers the question, yes, I am. Then he adds something, which is not in the question. And
Yes,
that's why
sir.
you put a period after I am.
Okay.
So if you say, yes, I am, there's no comma there. There's just a comma, there's no semicolon. And that's why I would not put a semicolon after no sir. I don't know about this double negative thing.
I don't even know the rule, like I said.
Because sir is just, it's just an interruption.
And that's exactly what they did here, Grant. You didn't ask another side to pay your bills. No, I did not. Just like you're saying, they didn't have the sir in
Yeah,
there.
so all you have is sir.
Yeah.
And that's throwing everybody off.
Yep.
You have to put in a semicolon. But that's not true. He just answered, no, I don't. It's like saying no, no.
Yeah. So my point is, there's a rule out there, some kind of rule out there in court reporting about some type of semicolon, and it might be because it's the sir in there. I don't have it. So there's something in there. And y'all, you guys are going to convention. It's going to be cool. You're going to be able to stump them. I hope y'all are getting questions. And speaking of convention, I'm hoping that everybody has already confirmed that you're going. And there's an email that Mary Berry has out for volunteers that they need to help stuff things. Because someone's paying for you, if you can donate some of your time, that would be awesome. So I'll send you Mary's email, and she's got a list of little chores they need help with. That's kind of just a given that we would be able to. See here's another one on semicolons. Most experts agree it's preferable to divide two independent clauses into two sentences. Therefore, you must have some basis for choosing instead to use a semicolon. Use a semicolon only when the idea in the two clauses are so closely related that a period makes too distinct a break between them. The semicolon is used when a coordinated conjunction, that's our word, has been omitted because between closely related independent clauses. We can identify independent clauses, but what constitutes closely related? Closely related is often seen when two independent clauses begin in similar ways, then diverge into opposite paths. I told her no, I told him yes. He said 5, he meant 6. So, it's going to be the same thing as commas, semicolons. Just find yourself a good book and be consistent. How many of y'all did this one? What you want to make sure you don't do is add cents here. You wouldn't have to add that. Remember, you're going to have numbers throughout your transcripts, and attorneys need to see the numbers, and they don't want to see the padding we talked about, padding, adding extra things. If you heard it is around $1,200, then you can do $1,200. It is around $1,200. Not a big deal, guys, but you're writing it. Yes, ma'am.
Should there be a comma after the word?
You can. You can if the dictation is $1,200, but if the dictation said it was $1,200, that's how you write $1,200. And when you're writing, guys, you're going to put something in because you said 1,000. You're going to write 1,200. So just FYI. But you wouldn't do that. The whole. Make sure you've got husbands. A couple of y'all had the no possessive on there. Here, see how they wrote out 60 years? What do we talk about time on our, what we handed out? Age, dates. Regarding, but this would still hit the 10 and over rule too, right? Okay. Here's another one. So how many are we up to so far? If this was a CSR and they were going to count off on our periods, what would happen here? Could you tell us what his name is? Yes, I can. Then you would have a question mark. It's a polite request. Could you tell us what his name is? His name is Ken. Same thing as state your name for the record. Okay? And then... Was that it, guys? Anybody have anything more? Yes, sir.
Would you, I just want to draw your attention on that handout you gave us for punctuation. Right near the end before the exercise on page 96, I was looking at the confusing words.
Okay.
And if you go down, you see illicit and illicit. The second illicit should be illicit. ILLICT.
Unlawful. Very good. Everybody correct that.
So, okay.
Yeah, no,
That's
definitely. Thank you for that.
there. So
ILL.
now I have to wonder, they didn't even proof their own book.
Hey, you know what? It's
So
human error.
I'm not even sure I even like this book.
Well, you know what? It's human. We got to do something. We got to work with something. And I'm telling you, no matter, you can get 10 books and they're all going to have a little something different. So you go with the
They didn't
consistent.
proofread.
They didn't proofread. So illicit, ILLICIT. Very important. That would have gotten you on a CSR, but you'll definitely will have that word. Think about illegal. ILLEG. That's an excellent way to remember it. Illegal, illicit with the ILL. Thank you for that, Grant. Here was one more. Was there anyone else who actually was living in your house with you? Yes. Yes, there was someone living in my house.
Now they're adding more information, so that's why you don't put a comma. Yes.
So answering two separate. If they would have said yes, was there anyone else who was actually living in your house with you? Yes, there was. Yes, comma, there was, period.
Yeah. If they said yes, was there anyone who was actually living in your house and you were caring for?
Then
And the answer
yes,
is yes, I was
excellent.
caring for my
Yep.
granddaughter.
Yes,
Then
comma,
it's a
okay.
comma.
And you know what? Think about how many times you're going to get question and answers throughout the day. 500 question and answers. So your mind, you just want to get some consistency. Here, what did they do here? Incorrect, right, guys? And I don't think I even caught it on some of y'all. I think someone brought it to my attention, like the last paper I was grading maybe, and they had the 2 because of what we discussed before. Would you do 2 months old with the dot number?
Age.
Age, right? Is that in what we just gave out? Age. Here's another one. Okay, so we're up to 6 errors. Could you tell us her name? It would be period there.
So then, Helen, I guess I'm just really trying to get it in my head how to. So if it's like, could you tell us, would you state, can you please, those would be periods. But if he would have just said, what was her name?
Question mark.
Then it would have been.
Yeah.
So it's all in just the way they phrase it. So if they're kind of like,
It's a polite request.
yeah.
It's a polite request. Where do we find that on our rule?
What?
That it was a polite request?
Oh, that was.
That was the very first one we did. And I just showed it to you in this book. Use a period at the end of a polite request. Would you please identify the exhibit? You're going to get this all the time. Can you tell us what happened next? Period. And guys, you know, it's just going to be with experience. There's nothing to sweat over. You guys are still figuring out the words. That's okay. Figure out the words. But when you're transcribing, you're getting so much practice. Okay, here's a note. Is she still living with you? No. She's not. No, comma, she's not. No, period. Different thought. She left. Okay. And I think that's it for that one. So let's get our machines ready.
I'm Googling,
What are you finding?
because I agree with you on the, can you state your name for the record? Yeah, I never put a question mark or anything, but actually sentences that begin with could, should, or would are questions and should have a trailing question mark. They use that example, could you please pass me the pepper shaker? Could be answered with a yes or a no. Although we usually use the syntax as a command, it is not the same as the command, pass me the pepper shaker. Could you let me know when the meeting begins? Could you tell me when the meeting begins? Could you let me know if you're attending the meeting? Good questions.
Except, but remember, there's court reporting, this is a court reporting.
Yeah.
Because you know what, even if you Googled, is that correct, is that right, you're not gonna find it in your English.
The only problem there is, you know, when you're going along and they start with, you know, this whole question, and you go put your answer bank.
The default's to a question mark.
No, but, and the witness hasn't replied yet,
Mhm.
okay? But you put your question, your answer bank right away. The witness pauses for a second and then says yes, answering the question.
Mhm.
Or doesn't say yes and says something else. You're not going to go back while you're doing
Nope.
it.
Transcribe
Only
it.
when you transcribe.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it means you've got to go back and check every single question.
You should go back and proofread.
Yeah.
And you should have a proofreader.
We're trying to be good writers too, so.
Yeah, you got a lot on your plate right now. Mhm. But you know what, where are you gonna learn this? You ready to pass your CSR? Go start working. No one's gonna sit down and tell you this. And you see it's a lot to absorb. Don't let it overwhelm you. Just find your rules, get them down, study them. If you don't feel it's comfortable, find another rule. Okay? Let's take a quick break. And you want to get your machine set up, we're going to do a little bit of exercises.
I had that. I had them all. I just didn't print them out. So, but you want to finish? Let me see.
I need those back, everybody.